Taboo, 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 taboo.
Chris.
Yeah. Oh, 1 minute.
Welcome to Taboo Sessions. We are in association with Aston Microphones, Iger Studios and Hyde Park Book Club. Today we're joined by Low Hummer. Thank you for joining us today. It's been lovely to have you in a session and nice to hear, well, a lot of new tunes that have just been rolling out over the last 12 months. We thought we'd just kind of ask a couple of questions just now that we've finished the session, just catch up with you guys, see how you're all getting along and see how life has been. The first one is just in relation to a lot of the work that you've been churning out over the last year. A lot of the work that you have done has actually been taking place in Leeds, working at Nave Studios, just up the road from us. Just was interested a little bit about the process of choosing Matt Peel in the first place and how that one kind of came to be, really.
Cool, so I met Matt years ago now with other projects, and yeah, it just seemed like the logical choice. We started with a song called Take Arms when we started this band, and we took a song to him and he drastically changed it into a format that we all sort of knew was the way to go, I guess. You know, it was quite synth dominated and it just felt like he was the right person to work with. As we started as a band, he wouldn't make that many changes, and the longer I've worked with him, the more changes he makes, and by the past 12 months he's been a massive help to us in shaping what we want to be and how we want to sound, so it felt like the right choice, and it probably was.
A lot of the writing process that you guys have had up until now has differed from the norm. That is now, I guess, the norm, in that you probably had more of a chance to get into rehearsal rooms together. You've all been able to actually bounce off each other creatively and kind of work in that sort of a sense. Obviously, with the last year being as it's been, how has this changed your working process, and how is that kind of reflected in a studio sense alongside a performance sense with the sort of stuff that we've done today, I suppose?
I think, well, I used to write a song and then bring it in, and then we'd tailor it to how we wanted it to work, and then take it into a studio, and that was pretty much it. And then through lockdown I probably wrote about 20 songs, sent it to John initially, and then we worked on a couple and then took them to Matt, and Matt would then get rid of most of those songs, which is how he works. And I guess the hardest bit was we'd have socially distance, we'd try demo some songs or try work on some songs, and then we'd have maybe 2 practices before going to the studio. So as you know, being a band, Adam, it's hard to do that. It's hard to go in and feel like you've got a part nailed. So then Matt would sort of help us individually on each sort of instrument and try work out what the sound should be for what was essentially a demo. And yeah, that process of demo to practice room to then studio, it was just demo pretty much straight into the studio and trying to work it out in a studio setting, which was terrifying for every one of us. And Matt would, you know, we'd played Matt a song and we played him a couple of songs and he just said this isn't workable, which is absolutely fine, which is what we needed. But I think the process of a lockdown has actually really helped us. I don't feel like when we've barely been a band by the time lockdown came, but I think through the process of lockdown we've worked together, written songs together and practiced more than ever, and I think it probably shaped us into being an actual band. So unlike, I mean, there were times when it was tricky obviously, but we've actually probably come out of it pretty well and written and started to perform as a band, as a collective for the first time ever. So I think good.
It's a whole different world that we're kind of working in the music industry at the moment, alongside, you know, all the new COVID way of life, I guess. We're looking forward to that changing and getting you guys out and about on the road properly again. Which brings me to another question. With the Low Hummer life at the moment, there's not been an opportunity to take this out on the road. There's not been a chance to gig yet in the proper sort of capacity for a lot of these new songs that the world has been able to see, but not actually see, I suppose. What's touring going to look like for you? I mean, obviously no one knows the complete answer to that question. It's the most vague question in the world. But touring, what's it going to look like for you? What are you going to kind of set as aspirational goals? What challenges are you going to face along the way? What sort of place are you guys in to jump back into live music again?
Well, at least 2 vehicles at all times
Yeah.
now. I think that's the first major thing.
Lots of gear.
Lots of gear. Yeah, ever sort of increasing amounts of gear, which is slightly worrying for how we're going to sort of tour about.
Learning how to play songs that we've not actually played live.
Ever played.
Yeah.
I think we've done things in the studio so much that now we're sort of learning mistakes. Well, for me anyway, I'm learning mistakes that I made in the studio, and now that's the part that I have to play. And it's like, how do I learn a mistake? Because it's everything I'm playing sort of wrong musically, and it's like learn that and do that, and it's like, well, I don't even know how to do that. So we're doing that, and then also no one knows what the goalposts are going to be, I guess, for gigs for the next, I don't even know, 6 months, a year. We don't know if it's going to be social distance or half capacity or whatever. So I guess you just sort of, as we've done so far, just go along with what the rules are currently and try and adapt to it the best you can, I guess.
In terms of a lot of the ways that you guys kind of act with the music scene, especially yourself, Dan, this kind of loops back to you again, so I'm afraid you're going to answer another question here. You're often involved in a local scene, but I mean, to some degree, you're open to the international scene and the national scene. I want to talk about memorable notes of live music that you've kind of experienced in terms of what you've seen at independent venues. Obviously, with the last year going on as it's happened, we've had closures, especially in Hull, where you guys are all based, of things like Polar Bear, which is traumatic, but it's nice to see, hopefully, that coming back again. Tell us a little bit about a gig experience on a local scale and one gig experience on a larger scale that has influenced what Lowhammer has become.
I'll go first.
Yes, please.
Well, I'm part of the Sesh, which has run for 18 years, providing a platform for local music. So I guess it's hard not to be inspired by the amount of bands that have come through that platform. Someone like Faux Pas or Team Picture are just really impressive to watch live, and it's impossible not to take elements of what they do live and into what we've done. Another band that are coming through, a band like Pre-Skate, who are incredibly young and exciting and immediately fresh out the traps of playing exciting music, is, it's hard not to be inspired on that level. And again, I guess I'll keep it local because we work from the street sesh, so I can cheat and say a bigger stage. For us locally, someone like Life or Shady Araka is inspiring in itself, to play to hundreds of people in Hull and just smash it. I guess them two have both played quite high on the bill and been really impressive, and something that you obviously aspire to.
Well, a few things, like obviously Hull is quite insular, the music scene. I've been going to Sesh for years, and I know a few years before being in Lowhammer, I saw false advertising at Sesh, and like seeing a girl in a band was amazing. I was like, she is the coolest person I've ever seen in my life. So that was like really nice. And then I think 2019 I came to Brudenell for Gold Sounds and saw WH Dom, and they were brilliant. So that was really good. I
think on a local level, just seeing bands get better is sort of pushes you to get better, I think. Because I'm a bit older than everyone else, so I've been around a bit longer. But seeing bands go from like just starting out, so we played with a band called Luma really early on, and their first gigs, it was like you could see there was something there, but then they've gone from like strength to strength and got tighter and tighter as a band. And to see that, you're like, oh, I best get better at the same time and be good. So like that, even that spurs you on. Like for me, like younger bands coming through, I sort of got to keep up a bit in that sense of like I need to be as good as that. So it's good just seeing new bands get better, especially seeing them right from the beginning.
So we're going to go on to a slightly more mellow note. That's obviously the last year, working within independent venues, and yourself as well, working independent catering, hospitality.
Yeah, like a food stall, I guess.
Stall,
takeaway.
Yeah. The life that we've had to live over the last year has kind of changed how we've had to adapt to modern day technology. To things like this, for instance. I mean, the way that we have to kind of act with Taboo sessions, the restrictions that are in place, the way that live music is presented, all that sort of stuff. How have you felt that it has benefited your sort of development and your keenness to move on with a more technological sort of stance in the future?
In a business sense, we basically started a food store which was completely based on footfall, like 100%. It was just like whoever passes buys things. It's in like a market. And that was gone within like a month of us being open. That didn't exist anymore. So for the first lockdown we were open, and then it was like became obvious this was going to last a long time. So it's like we either open and figure out some way to do it, or we make no money for a year. Like, so we basically just, as you say, technology, click and collect, things like that became like we just needed to do it, or you didn't really survive. So it was good we sort of learned a lot of things really quickly, I think is what it's done. Things you wouldn't have maybe got onto for a few years with like click and collect and delivery and stuff that we never really envisaged ever doing. You have to like do immediately just to even like make a bit of money. But we've been quite lucky because we're in a council building, so all the restrictions and all the rules, we were pretty much given what they were. We didn't have to sort of make our own decisions, because some people had to make moral decisions on, do we want crowds, do we stay open, do we have that? But we were sort of under the blanket of a council thing. So thankfully, a lot of the decisions on a moral sort of ground was made for us. But yeah, it's been interesting to sort of run a business in these times, especially so early on in the business, that we've had to sort of survive it. Just like a band would survive it, you have to sort of deal with so many situations. So yeah, if anything, it's just we've learned a lot in a small amount of time, and now we've survived it, you'd hope that you sort of can survive anything in a business sense. I can't see anything really ever being as bad.
Let's move to you directly here, because you've obviously experienced work within Low Hummer, but also Fever. So on a more of a band sort of scale, how have you found that you've had to adapt as far as technology is concerned? So obviously still do outreach and still, you know, engage with fans and give them something new to work with on a regular basis.
It's one of them. Obviously, you've built up a bit of, a bit of headroom, and you don't want to lose that momentum. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to keep going. But I guess it's just about how you, both in that band and in this band, it's how you learn to communicate without, we're not that great at communicating, as you can tell. So it's how do you learn how to do that digitally? Do you know what I mean? Digital age.
Yeah.
How do you learn how to do that without being able to get into a practice room? And like with Fever, it was like doing like lockdown covers and stuff. Like we didn't particularly do that. I think we did one, didn't we? Which it went alright. Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, obviously, can you still write without being able to get in a room together? But I haven't written an album.
Yeah, we made an album, didn't we? I forgot about that. Yeah, we did that sort of in lockdown, pretty much. It's a good time to do it, actually, in fact.
Yeah, very much so.
If you've got nothing else on, it sort of it centres you onto that one thing. And I think it's given a lot of bands a chance to go, right, we don't have to get this sort of gig ready. We can take time with every song. And we've spent more time on any songs for this album than we've ever spent on anything, really. So, and with a gig, you sort of have to rush it. It's like, how can we get this gig ready for an audience? And gig ready, as you know, is never like studio. You have to get it more ready for a studio, and I think doing that means, hopefully, we already know the songs a bit better than we would have otherwise. So that sort of helped. And with an album, it's just having time to do an album when there's gigs going on. I think it was the best opportunity for us to go, right, there's no gigs, let's put all our focus into that. Dan was obviously just writing constantly, so it was like song after song. So thankfully we managed to, with Matt, not get rid of a few, but sort of centre it on, refine it onto what we wanted.
I think as well, it's like you're writing for live, aren't you? Whereas
That's it, yeah.
hence why we only played these 4 songs today. There's a lot of songs we don't have to play.
Yeah. We're going to talk about bands that we love on the music scene at the moment, who are still kicking around, who are doing some amazing things and involving themselves in just some really, really cool stuff. And bands that we've lost, because obviously over the last year and prior to that as well, there's been plenty of big bands that we've absolutely loved over the music scene in general that are no longer around anymore, which is a shame, but yeah, their music still survives anyway. So we're going to give you a little bit more time, Amy, over here. So we're going to start from the left. If that's
Me?
all right. So
Not even Jack, me, straight in.
So, deep end.
Basically lockdown was just like completely listening to music. I think it was like trying to just listen to as much stuff as possible. Obviously, like the start, there wasn't much new stuff because people were like, let's hold the new stuff back, see if we get back to live. And then I think when people figured out there was no live for like another year, people started putting stuff out. So I think the new Laura Marlin album, I was listening to a lot. The new Phoebe Bridgers album, listening to intently. Pinegrove have just put out a new thing, which I've been listening to a lot. So that's sort of bands that are still around. So for bands that aren't around, a band called, well, my favourite ever whole band is a band called City Ghosts. and they were like a brother and sister thing. But Greg, who was in that, has done a lot of other good things since. Night Flowers, don't know if you've come across them, but doing good stuff with that. But City Ghost's my favourite Hull band. I'd like to see them again. Bands like Edible Flowerfoot Smiths, which was a guy called Matt who's been in, again, the Holy Orders and loads of good bands in Hull. So yeah, from a local point of view, they're a couple that I'd like to see come back. Or Prince. So.
I think we might struggle for that one, but we'll put in a request.
Give it a try.
Yeah. Moving onwards, you're up next.
The Hubbards are doing stuff again.
Yeah,
Excited about that.
Hubbards are around again.
Yeah, I think that's...
Jack's like, one Hull band ever, and it was the Hubbards.
Yeah. that's the only Hull band I need to listen to.
It's good for the Hubbards, bad for everybody else.
Yeah. I was about to say the Holy Orders actually, because they were one that I miss.
Well, I went further back because I'm older, Jack. That's why.
Yeah, well, Matt Edibles, well, they're all still doing something musically.
Yeah, I think Holy Orders are still about musically.
But the Holy Orders, we definitely miss them.
Me and Dan have been writing for the sesh a lot about sort of flashbacks and bands that have disappeared. So maybe a band like Mother, we did a feature on a couple of weeks ago. That'd be a band I'd like to go back to them times, I guess. And yeah, Prince.
Prince.
Double down on Prince.
Two for Prince now, so
Two
if
for
we
Prince.
could get at least 3 for Prince,
If we get at least 3 from Prince, I think he'll get back up from the grave and just walk in the door.
Yeah, that's what
to be honest. Which we'd all like. So
I'd love that.
like, yeah, it would be fantastic.
I concur with the first 2 albums, what John said, apart from Pinegrove. And I'll also chuck in Willie J. Healy's new record.
Actually, yeah,
It's winning
I'll go
that's
with
very
that as well.
yeah.
And we're getting free tickets to go see him. So yeah,
Fantastic.
very good
Yeah,
record.
that's perfect.
Yeah, that's a very good album.
Thank you, Johnny.
It'll sound better because it's free. So. Good
For an artist that are out now, I keep going on about the same one, and it's a band called Drugstore Romeos. We're like a 3-piece, quite chilled out stuff, and sort of helped when we were writing the back end of what hopefully will be the album. Sort of a bit tamer stuff, but a bit weirder, I guess, and a bit more synth dominated. I think Drugstore Romeos are really good at that. And a band that I didn't really know existed, a band called Broadcast, which everyone probably knows about except me. We listened to a bit of Matt Peel told us to listen to, and I was driving to and from Leeds when we were mixing and listening to them, and they were really inspiring. But it's always a shame when you find a band and they don't exist anymore. As for like a Hull artist that exists now that's really inspiring, I would say Downtown Kyoto, who's sort of got elements of Charles Gambino, and a band I miss, probably Oedipus the King. I really miss. They're a great band, sort of shoegazy, quite an emotive band for me to watch live, and yeah, one of my favourite bands we ever had at the Sesh Night. So
I think I'd say Phoebe Bridges has been played on repeat constantly the past year, and I know the Howl and the Hum released an album last year which was brilliant. I really loved that. Yeah, big fans of them. I think bands I miss, I don't know if there's sort of any local, but Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin, we can go with that. Yeah.
Robert Plant is missing from my life.
Do you miss Prince though? Have you heard of him?
No.
No.
Pretty big deal. Don't know about it.
I don't think so.
No. All right.
Go have a listen when you get it because it's bloody good.
Do you have a
Prince.
recommendation?
Prince.
Prince. How's
Prince.
it spelled?
Best of Prince.
Not sure.
Purple Rain's alright.
Purple Rain, the best of Prince.
I did have major gig regret as well because I got tickets for the Maccabees farewell tour and didn't go. Which
I did.
that was
great.
Alright,
They'll be back. Don't you worry.
Okay. Last but not least.
I've been listening to Angel Olsen a lot and Phoebe Bridges as well. And I was also listening to Broadcast in terms of bands that aren't really well, and just really got into a lot of their stuff. not through Matt Bill's recommendation actually. It's about by myself.
Get the knife in.
And just been listening to a lot of like Velvet Underground, just sort of chill, calm stuff.
That pretty much concludes the session for today and the interview. But first of all, you've got a single coming out fairly shortly, which this could be the first time that we're speaking about it. It could have been announced before now. We don't know. But either way, tell us a little bit about the single. Tell us a little bit about what it's about. Yeah, we'd love to hear it. We've already heard it, but we'd love to hear about it.
Great. Yeah, so The People This Place is a single out in May, and I guess it's the last song we have, which rounds off where we started with Take Arms, really, which is sort of our attempt at being a sort of garage band, synth sort of dominated stuff, to the point of Matt Peel saying, when we wrote this one, he said, okay, you've finally written the song you've been trying to write for this amount of time, so you can leave it there, you've done it, well done. I don't even think he said well done.
He didn't say well done.
He was like, it's alright. I guess it's just paranoia about the people, walking in, I guess we all feel it a little bit, walking back into a pub and walking back into various elements and feeling like everyone's against you or you're being stared at. I guess that's the chorus, and then it's just that element of isolation, which again I guess everyone's felt, and it's something that we draw a lot of, regardless of a pandemic, it's something we write a lot about. So it's just the different elements and the different weird moments of isolation you feel regardless of where you are, whether you're with people or without people. Sonically, John?
Sonically? Well, I think the breakthrough was when we went, doesn't need a chorus. I think that's when we tried like a chorus after chorus and it was like none of them quite sit right, and then we just went real linear, dropped out, and we were like, that could be the chorus. So we've sort of, that is the chorus, I guess, and that's sort of what I like about it, sort of the anti-chorus without it being anything massive. The chorus, like to drop out, I really liked, and it sort of took away what we were trying to do before. We were trying to make the chorus real big, and it sort of made the verses not have the impact they should. So I think as soon as we realised we didn't need a chorus for the song, that's when it really sort of finally clicked as a thing. That's one of the ones we didn't really get out as a demo, did we, until we went in a room.
We were very worried by this point.
We were going in the studio like
we were going in, the studio
in a week.
In a week or so's time, and I wrote two within maybe 3 weeks, and then we didn't really have time to really process them and demo them, so it was a matter of actually going in the practice room and working it out, which is really good. And we did manage to demo a little bit and send it over to Matt, and he was like, these are fine.
Yeah, and we were like,
what?
Fine, fine.
So this one and potentially the next single, it's funny how you can spend months working on a track and then you take it to someone and they're like, well, you've missed the mark on this one, and then you can write a song in a couple of weeks, and it feels like, it naturally just felt okay, and this is one of those. Which maybe it just shows progression from where we started with the bulk of songs to where we ended.
Thanks very much for coming along today, all of you. It's been lovely to have you in, and we can't wait to be out on the road again, as I'm sure you guys can't. Hopefully we'll see you back out there again. It's been Taboo Sessions. Thank you.
Thanks.